Good evening to all of you. It's Monday. You're gonna see this recorded, of course. This morning I thought about share something with you. You may have heard before, but I'll go a little bit more in depth because it's really important to understand that from the very beginning, Barboursville Vineyard did implement a philosophy on winemaking, and also I further expand on it when I came in 1990. The philosophy from the very beginning was that similar to what we have commonly in Europe, in Italy, where I'm from, for example, as well, which it's driven by making wine that are to be consumed at the table with food for the most part. If we put aside, for example, our sparkling wines that are delicious as an aperitif, although even with an aperitif I like to eat something. I said many times I don't like to drink just wine by itself as a beverage. I like to see it as a beverage with food. And so today I'm expanding a little bit about that philosophy and what that implies. The most important implication is that for a winemaker is when we time the picking of the grapes, to how we ferment, to how we age them, to how we blend them, is to retain enough freshness on white wines, and which some people call acidity. I like to call it freshness because acid sometimes is almost sounds like a negative word to me and somewhat unpleasant. So freshness to me is a term that is more suitable to it. Yes, freshness. Frequently, I rather drink a wine also that is very dry. I don't prefer white wine that are fresh, but also they have residual sugar in their texture, because I find them somewhat off balance at times. And especially with the food, they do work, but with not all kind of pairings. For that matter, I chose today to have a little bit of our nascent 2019 we just released, which is fantastic. And in the reds, you heard it before. I like reds that are dry. They need to have some tannins. The freshness there is a bit. Is more moderate on purpose, and we act upon what is the time of picking and the fermentation to have lower acidity than we would have on a white wine, because when you have acidity and tannins together, they spike together, they synergize each other. So this philosophy really to produce dry red, dry whites, whites that are fresh, fragrant, fresh, and the reds that are dry and astringent, was perhaps not the most popular and marketing-wise for short-term decision that was taken here at Barboursville Vineyard and continued by myself here. I'll give you just one example that I really feel like explains the whole thing really clearly. Since 1979, which was the first commercial vintage available here at Barboursville, we produced Chardonnay, which still produce Chardonnay, and throughout all this year, it has never seen a kiss of oak. A kiss means just a touch, not even a kiss. I mean zero, no affection for wood in our Chardonnay, although we do produce a barrel fermented one. And I have to say that when I came in 90, the fad was all for Chardonnay with lots of oak. lots of malolactic fermentation, buttery, sweet, high alcohol. Beautiful wine, very expressive, but I never found them very food friendly. And I'm not saying they are not food friendly, they do work for certain wine pairings. And I respect the preference of anybody that prefers that style. I'm not against it. It's just that I come from a place in my life, the way we eat, the way I used to eat growing up and still eat here, I still find myself more satisfied with this type of wine. And so, the culture of food and wine was more expanded for sure when I arrived here than from the previous years. And I started by organizing some events, small events here at the vineyards, featuring some homemade, beautiful vegetable minestrone with some Parmigiano-Reggiano, some extra virgin olive oil, and handing out to people a simple taste with a little taste of wine, explaining that yes, if you taste this Cabernet Franc by itself, it seems a little bit aggressive, a bit of stringency, but as you enjoy with a wholesome, simple dish of food, it all becomes understandable why we do it and how refreshing it is, that sip of wine after that earthiness of the soup you just tasted. That progressed into organizing some food and wine event with chefs here on the estate. And it became very evident that it was the right time here in Virginia, I would say, to be more involved on what was happening, which I describe as the Virginia food and wine revolution. We start seeing great restaurants opening in cities like Richmond, Charlottesville. I'm not excluding the part in Northern Virginia, of course. It was a bit further ahead, that area, I guess, close to Washington. We had a lot more great chefs in that area. But in the more countryside of Virginia, it was the years where we start seeing this great phenomenon. And so the timing was right to be even more confident that it was the right direction to take. And again, staying away from making type of wine that are pleasant to drink by themselves. In order to do that, at times, some winemakers produce whites with a little bit of residual sugar just to be softer. Red wines fermented in such a way and aged also in such a way to produce roundness, softness, and immediate pleasure, especially when drink by themselves. Of course, we opened Palladio in 1999 due to a couple of fantastic vintages, 97 and 1998. And so here I am today sharing with you a couple of great events that are coming up in the very short future. We have our annual truffle dinner, which has been going for almost a little bit more than 25 years. There are very few seats left on that event. And the love for truffle started for me in Piemonte, where I'm from Alba. My brother has a restaurant in Alba. I grew up eating truffles and drinking great Barolo and Barbarescos, which is Nebbiolo, basically. So this really was a very strong desire I had to celebrate the fall, this gorgeous fall. When fall comes, I tend to drink more reds. I still drink some whites, but reds definitely are at my table more and more frequently. The food becomes richer, more intense, a bit with more depth, and that's where great reds come in place. Another great event is our annual Octagon. We have been doing also this event for many, many years. It's going to be first Saturday in December. And here again, we're going to have a very extravagant, luscious meal. Here you're going to find some dishes that we have presented other times, and sometime I discuss also with Chef Michael Clow how we designed the menu. We shared together some thoughts as well with Alessandro Medici, and there are certain courses that we represent. One of them, one of the dishes to me that's more dear is ravioli del Plin. It brings back a lot of memories of my childhood, of my grandmother, of my father, which was a great maker of ravioli del Plin. They're this big, and it's so great that for my wedding with my wife Patrizia, which was in front of the historic ruin, I arranged for my father to come here a week earlier, and he made 6,000 small ravioli of the same size, and they were served at our wedding. So that dish, it's basically a filling with veal sauce, and sorry, is a filling with veal and braised veal ground with vegetables, and then the sauce is a brown butter, crispy sage, and some veal sauce. Of course, a little bit of Parmigiano-Reggiano on top. That's going to be served with our new 2019 Octagon, our previous vintage, 2018. So I will not go through the whole menu, but really today I just had this urge to share our culture more and more with all of you. And what really made me think of food and wine, it was this first snap of a little bit of overcast, a little bit of rain, a drizzle, a lot of leaves falling. I found some great mushrooms last week, by the way. That's another thing I truly enjoy in the fall, is picking some hen of the woods. I'll show you a picture as well. And so this sense of fall coming on us makes me think being in the house, fireplace going, some wholesome, earthy food, and a great glass of Octagon. So I invite you to come and visit us and participate with us at some of these gorgeous events. They're of course available online. And so to that, I would say, welcome to the fall with a little sip of nascent by itself. I have no food with me, but it's okay. And again, hope to see you soon. Is a time also for us vintners, winemakers, to slow down a little bit. The wines in the cellar are finishing their fermentation, their malolactic fermentation. We're looking forward to receive our barrels from Italy by the end of December. So things are more quiet, and it's also a time for us to rest, reflect, and enjoy, like you, some great fall times. See you next week.